about the things.
And welcome to Corner Cafe. I am Rachel Maines, and I have a friend and colleague on the show today. I'm excited about this guest, John Rush. Welcome to Corner Cafe.
Thank you for having me, Rachel, and too kind of words, by the way, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, I enjoy, we don't often, sometimes we talk, here at work,
right,
and we get into some great discussions, but just to see you every day, your smiling face right before you do the Rush to Reason show.
Well, thank you, and likewise, by the way, I enjoy the same.
John, you've been so successful in business, now in radio, and I know our listeners who listen to your show, they want to ask, well, John, how did you get involved in radio? Give your, all the way to how you started your business into radio story.
Long story. I'll make it as short as I can. So grew up in the automotive world. My grandfather started a car dealership back in Boulder called Rush Motors in the 40s. And my father and his two brothers, so my uncles and father, they were all in business together. I started working in that business when I was very young, had a paper route when I was really young as well, 9, and I started working around the dealership when I was about 11 and 12, and then started working literally, every summer, every Christmas vacation, every summer vacation, or every spring break, summer vacation, all those from that point forward, and really had a love for the automotive industry, cars in general, and learned from a lot of great mentors. I've never been to automotive school in my entire life, no formal education along those lines. Ran successful shops through the years. I ended up with 2 different facilities when I sold those in 2012. And also had my share of hard knocks. I learned how to do business the hard way. I didn't go to college. I don't have an MBA. None of that. Everything I've learned, Rachel, in life literally has come from mentors, doing it the right way, doing it the wrong way, learning from those mistakes, failing. I've had many a failure in my day, and try to minimize those today as much as possible. But they've come along the way. And how I got into radio was at one time in my Saturday program, folks recognized Drive Radio, and I've done that for about 2 decades plus. At one time, that was what we and a lot of other shops, and a lot of those are still with me today on Drive Radio, we use those as a marketing tool for our businesses. And it was a great way to get in front of people, help the community, help our businesses at the same time. It was promotional, but at the same time, very educational for our customers and listeners. And it just worked really well. And it's still on air today. So it was a part of that. And I just, in the beginning, was a guest host, and then slowly but surely became the host. And over time, again, that program just continued to grow and spread. I came to KLZ, moved the program from Clear Channel. We came over here in 2008 to Crawford on KLZ due to Mike Treem, who you know very well and have interviewed also. And it was his doing that actually brought me here in 2008, kept doing my weekend program, Drive Radio. And then I sold my stores in 2012. I had 2 different stores, one in Boulder, one in Fort Collins. And upon selling those, about a year later, Mike Treem called me on the phone and he said, hey, you do really well on the weekend. We've had some programming changes around these parts. We've got some slots in the afternoon and would like to know if you'd like to do a daily program. And I said, on cars? And he said, no. He said, you're a good Christian businessman. I just want you to talk about, business and politics and different things. I know you're semi-involved in some of those things. And I really said, well, okay, tell you what, I need to talk to my family, need to pray about it, really figure out if this is exactly, the direction I want to go, because it's a big commitment, a lot of time, et cetera. And I did. So, prayed about it, talked to my family, talked to my boys at that time, who are very involved in my business even today. And everybody's consensus was, this would not only help the community, it would also help probably on the political front. There's a lot of things going on there, and it would be, a way that we as a family even could give back. We can't do a lot of other things. I'm not really, I don't think, fit to run for office or do anything along those lines, but I felt like, okay, we could have a voice and be the voice of reason. Therefore, right. Rush to Reason is where that came from. My kids actually named it that. I didn't come up with that name. My kids did.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And they did. And
kudos to the kids.
Kudos. They did a great job. And so, I started here an hour a day for about 6 months, and that grew into the afternoon programming from 3 to 6. They then started replaying the first hour from 6 to 7. Oh, gosh, probably 5-6 years ago, Rachel, something along those lines. And I'm still here doing it. And I'm not trying to boast at all, because that's not my nature, but we are the longest running evening talk show, actually probably the longest running show in Denver now, period.
Wow.
And we've kept going that long that we have outlasted actually everybody else that's been in that time slot in the evenings, other than, some of just the straight music stations and so on. But even some of the DJs and such, we've outlasted some of them. So it's been very, very fun. And you say successful. I don't see myself that way at all. I have people at times that'll say, how did you get to be, how'd you get to be successful? How'd you get to be this? And I always look at them and I struggle with not the word, but the word for me, Rachel, because I still realize all the different things that go on, even in my own business, and the struggles that we still have, and all the different things we're still trying to overcome, and the things in my own life I'm still trying to overcome. And I don't know. I always say that when you're self-employed, you're 90 days from bankruptcy at any given time.
Right.
And that's still in the back of my mind. So to me, am I successful? Far from it.
Yeah. Wow. And see, that's what it takes to be successful, is your mindset, your attitude, the humility that you have, and the hard work ethic, which seems to have come from your family. It has come from my family. Yeah, my grandfather, my uncles, my dad, especially, very, very hardworking. I come from a very hardworking family, and I've tried to teach my kids that the success to life. If you want to be successful in life, really, the answer is just outwork the guy next to you. I mean, Right.
If you can do that, you'll always keep your job. You'll always be ahead. And I realize there's exceptions to every rule, but Rachel, in general, if you can just learn, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room even. If you can outwork all the other people in the room, you'll be successful even over those people that might be smarter than you. Right. Amen to that. I kind of feel that way with my story too, is I wouldn't say I'm like the smartest in the bunch, but I love smart, to work. By the way. Oh, thank you. But I love to work, and I want to do excellent with everything I do. So, and enjoying what you do too is key. And that's where I think today, not to get off on a side note, we could maybe even do another episode down the road in this way, but I think far too many parents, guidance counselors, and so on, they try to teach kids that, if you always do what you love, you'll always be successful. Well, that's not totally true, because yes, you do need to do things that you enjoy and like, but you also have to be good at it. Right. If you're not very, for example, there's certain things I love, certain, pictures and paintings, and I look even inside the room here that I'm in the studio, and there's these beautiful pictures and so on. I can't paint a stick figure. Me either. So I look at these and I'm like, this is just gorgeous, and I would love to be able to do that. But it's not in my wheelhouse. It's not in my talent pool. So if I were to sit down with a canvas in front of me and try to draw and do anything at all along those lines, I would be a dismal failure. Would I enjoy it? I'm not sure, because you wouldn't be very successful at it. But I think so many people get into these lines of work of things where they really like it and they have an interest in it. But frankly, Rachel, they may not be very good at it. And so what I've always said is, enjoy what you do, but make sure it's something that you're good at as well. Because if you're good at it and you see success in it, you'll even enjoy it more and more after that. So many people, I think, find themselves disgruntled at what they're doing, partially because they're not doing what they ought to be doing in the first place. Right. Yeah. And, when we know the Lord, we're able to ask. That helps a ton. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, what am I created to do? Absolutely helps a ton. Yeah. And he opens doors, right? Absolutely. Yes. And what I've always said is he opens the door, but we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, 2 arms. I mean, we have to also walk through the door. Right. It can be open. And I'm not one to pry the door open, because I don't think that's the way you should do it either. But when the door is open, you have to take initiative. He's not going to throw you through the door. Right. He'll open it. It's like salvation. The door is open. Are we going to walk through it or not? That's the real key to this. Right. Amen to that. Well, Corner Cafe is underneath the brand, if you will, of Influencers TV. And one of my taglines is, being a positive influence. That's what our goal here is at Corner Cafe. Amen. How would you define a positive influence, John? I think, you said it even as we opened up, and I do my best. And I will say this is one of those areas that I'm constantly working on in my own life, because I, like you, like things done a particular way. I'm kind of a perfectionist in that way. Yep. And sometimes those things not going well can make me not a happy John. And so I have to do my best at all times, in all circumstances, at least put on that face to where, yes, I am happy and I'll work through this and so on. And granted, my family probably knows some other sides of me that most in public don't see, but I do my best even there to try to be, that positive influence. And I think that really, Rachel, starts number one with what's your attitude? Right. Do you have a really good attitude? What's your outlook on life? Do you see the glass, half full, or is it always half empty? Do you have a constant negative outlook on everything around you? Or do you try to look at things, even if it's a bad situation, how are you interpreting that and trying to make the best of that situation? And of course, those of us like you and I that are self-employed, you sometimes have no choice but to do that. But I look at people that have, positive influence, and some, by the way, that have a golden opportunity to have that, but yet don't. And I don't ever want to be that person. If I have the opportunity to be an influence at all, I want to be that positive influence. I really feel like it's a calling. It's what God has given us in the first place. I mean, I'm just thankful to be here every day, not only to be on air and to be at the station I'm in and to be with Crawford Broadcasting like you are as well. But honestly, Rachel, just to be alive. I mean, just to breathe the air and to live in Colorado and to be born in the United States of America. And we have so many things that give us an advantage over everywhere else. And I'm not one to, to make the playing field equal, because there's no such thing as equality. All of us have different talents. You have a different talent than I have. And that's fine. That's how God created us. We're all part of a family, and we all have different pieces of that family to play, if you would, just like he talks about. Some of us are the eyes and the ears and the feet and so on. And the reality is, in the body of Christ, we're all different, yet we are equal in his eyes, and yet we have equal opportunity. But that does not mean that we are equal. And I'm just thankful every day, Rachel, number one, just to be upright, to be, gaining in on 60 now and to feel great. And I don't feel like I'm 60. And I'm just thankful that he's given me the opportunities in life that I have.
Yeah. Amen to that, John. Yeah, there's a song I'm listening to by a new artist I discovered, and one of the songs is called Grateful. I love the lyrics. It's like, grateful that I can breathe, and grateful for the sun, grateful for the lemonade that I can taste, the simple things.
Amen.
To be grateful for.
And, and I've met so many people, Rachel, around the world that haven't had the opportunity to grow up in the United States of America, but at the same time have the same attitude that you and I have. So I'm not saying that it's just because that we live here we should have that. I think people in any circumstance that are human beings created by God in his image, which we all are, that alone gives you something to be thankful for. Yes.
Very well said. Very well said, John. So, talking about the positive influence just in who you are, in the people you meet, in your family life, and then now doing this show where you talk about the society. You're a commentator on what's going on. It's a political show, and you have a chance to make a difference and be a positive influence by informing people and sharing your perspective.
Yeah, and that's where I will say this. There are days where, and that's partially why I take a vacation about every 8 to 10 weeks, because I have to keep myself in check. If I just did that daily and didn't look at all of the other things that come into play, you could be really, really grumpy at what's going on in the world. Trust me. And so what I have to do is try to how should I say this, Rachel? I don't want to make light of anything because they're very serious subjects, but on the same token, if you can't have a good laugh every now and again and chuckle sometimes, even chuckle at the craziness of what's going on, it will literally drive you crazy. So yes, daily I try to bring all sorts of different aspects. We do our health and wellness on Wednesdays where I try to focus on just our overall well-being, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually. We do all sorts of other types of segments. We'll wrap some sports in at times even. I do some car stuff. We do movie reviews on Fridays. So while it's politically driven, I really do my best to try to balance that out. And I've actually taken some heat at times because we'll do something that's not political, and I'll get a comment from a listener that'll say, there's a lot of things going on in the world that are really, really serious, and why are you talking about this today? Well, because there's a lot of things in the world going on, and we do need a little bit of sanity at times, because otherwise, Rachel, yes, it will drive you crazy.
Yes. Yeah, you have to have that balance. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're doing that too, because a lot of us who don't have a political talk show, we could just tune out. You can't do that. You have to be up to date and research and know all the issues.
No, you are correct in that. And that's where it does get a little challenging at times. And I also, and most people probably don't know this, I don't watch programs. I don't watch the news. I don't watch TV. I get all of my information from sources that I feel are very reliable, and I try to get my news in that way. I try to then repurpose that news, if you would, on air. I do my best to not follow other commentators, other talk shows. I don't listen to other talk shows even on radio or XM or anywhere along those lines. I mean, if there's a debate or something like that going on, of course, yes, for homework purposes, I'll watch that. But other than that, Rachel, I don't have any kind of cable subscriptions or Dish Network or anything like that. I do not watch TV and get my news that way.
I think that's really smart, because then you're taking your unique perspective and you're not being influenced by someone else's, and then you have your own, news sources that you trust. So I think that's very smart, and that's why the show has been successful.
Thank you.
One of the reasons. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. And again, that's a lot of, I've even had some listeners say, well, you should listen to so-and-so, or you need to watch such and such. And, part of that may be true sometimes, Rachel, and I don't want to sell any of those people short or say that they're wrong, but, I also want to be me. Right. And I don't want to pick up habits from somebody else, and some of what they may use is, because we all have crutches that we use in every job, even us that are on air. There's certain crutches and things that all of us use. And I don't want to pick any of those up from someone else. I want to be me. I want to be raw, whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise. I want to be me, and I don't want to follow what somebody else is doing.
Yeah, I love that, John. That is great. How has your faith, and how does it from day to day really determine the content on air? Do you feel like the Lord leads you in certain directions to talk about certain topics?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Yes. I mean, that's the easy answer. Yes. Now, where does that go, and how do I, put all that together? And this is where, again, I don't listen to what other people are doing. I do it raw. I do it on my own. I feel different prodding at times of, we need to talk about this or we need to talk about that. But as far as my faith goes, was raised in a Christian home. Doesn't mean that everybody in a Christian home is a Christian, of course. I mean, that's a decision that you have to make on your own, which I did at, fortunately, an early age in life. And that doesn't mean that I've been perfect all the way through by any stretch of the imagination, even still to this day. Yes, I have faults. I make mistakes. I do things that I'm sure at times God looks at that and says, "What, you knucklehead, what are you doing?" And
we all feel that way.
So I know
if we're
that,
honest.
Exactly. And so, but on the same token, I know that He's there. I know that He does, He is our guiding light. He is there guiding us along. I try not to spiritualize, too many things, and I hope you know what I mean by that. I mean, I want it to be raw, and I don't want to sound, floofy when it comes to all the spiritual things. On the same token, is He the underpinning of everything that I do, and is He there in my life every step of the way? Rachel, I wouldn't be here without Him.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, I love that. And, the faith is simple. And sometimes, and myself included, we can make it more complicated than it needs to be. And really how you summarize that, I think, is perfect.
Thank you.
And just the humility of that. And that is important to realize, hey, we're not perfect. I think we fall into pride when we kind of tend to spiritualize everything, and we think, oh, we've arrived. But to walk in that humility, constantly day to day.
I see that the same way I do my professional business life. Are you ever going to arrive? Yeah, the day I meet Him.
Exactly.
I mean, at that point, yes, but not till then.
Right. Exactly. John, the news cycle is overwhelming, and we've learned here in this interview that you don't watch the news cycle, but just all the information that we're getting nowadays, it's constantly in the society, and
and it's instant.
It's instant.
Yes.
How do you balance all that when you're planning your show, or just in general as you are a commentator speaking to the culture?
Great question. And number one, I never stop. I use OneNote from Microsoft. It's one of the tools that I use to keep a lot of the things in my world straight, because I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a business coach, so I coach small businesses. I have my own business to take care of. Plus, I do the radio program and own some commercial property and do some. So I've got a lot of different things that are going on. And so to keep that straight, I have to have myself organized. So when it comes to the show, though, even on my phone, I have that in an app form. And if there's something that I see, or there's something that has, jogged my memory, something that I notice that, hey, I want to put this into my my notes. And it could even be, today's Friday, Rachel, that we're recording this on. I could be putting something in my notes for next Wednesday. Now, whether I use it or not maybe depends on what the news cycle and what's going on that particular day. But I'm always working typically 2 to 3 days in advance, and I'm just taking a lot of the things that even you would see, and every day I will have an overage of things that are in my notes that typically, it's rare that I get through every single topic that I've got in my notebook for that particular day. The nice thing is I can typically go back and find something if I need to ever fill or do something along those lines, but rarely do I even do that. Normally, once the day is gone, to your point, the news cycle has now moved on, and if that was a story yesterday, it may not be tomorrow, and you just move on and realize that, okay, I didn't get a chance to talk about that, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And that's healthy. So you're not getting overwhelmed or beating yourself up because you missed something. Yeah.
No, if you do that, you literally, if I was purposely trying to get to every single topic, and yes, there's some highlights that I will definitely get to no matter what, but there's days where sometimes the callers will start to call, Rachel, and at the end of the day, I might have gotten to a third of what was actually in my notebook for that day.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. You got to go with the flow.
That's right.
And same in life, you got to go with the flow, and the same with our relationship with the Lord is we just have to go with his flow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're both health nuts, John. I love, conversations we've had in the kitchen about health or in the hallway or whatnot. But what's a couple health tips that you would give somebody?
Get enough sleep.
Yes.
Eat right. Stay away from all of the, it doesn't mean that I don't ever have any sugar, but try to stay away from sugar, especially the processed sugars and the processed foods and all of those sorts of things. It doesn't mean that you can't have some of that periodically, but really do as much as you can to stay away from those things. Eat fresh. Eat smaller portions more often. Try not to overeat. Try not to get on the fad diets. While some of them might be really good and it might be okay for you to shed a few pounds to make that wedding or whatever that is that happens to be coming up or that special occasion, but avoid those things and just live a healthy lifestyle. And this is where I will fault the church worldwide,
right?
In especially the North American church, we don't teach people to do things very healthy. Sunday morning church is typically a box of donuts kicking around. Well, I could think of other alternatives where we could be teaching people, better ways to do things. If there's anything I could fault the church in is we teach people how to be healthy spiritually. We don't teach them very well how to be healthy physically.
I know. I agree. Man, that's a passion of mine too. I'm going to have you on a future show just to talk about health.
We can do that.
Yeah, because
I have learned a lot on the Wednesday hours that I've done for the last 7 or 8 years, Rachel. I interview all sorts of different people, far, far more experts on this than I, and I have just been a sponge on those Wednesdays. I don't know if my listeners enjoy it, but I do.
Yeah. And I see you have water there on the desk.
Constantly.
Water is a tip I give everybody.
Absolutely.
If you're feeling tired, first drink a lot of water. Maybe you're dehydrated.
If you're hungry, drink.
Right. Exactly. I love that, John. So someone who's aspiring to be a radio host, any tips?
First of all, you got to find yourself, you've got to get your foot in the door. And in this day and age, which we didn't have, even when you started, the podcasting end of things, you do have the ability now to where you could practice and even start a small podcast and get used to doing a few things. There are classes and things that you can take. But honestly, if you've got that solid desire, Rachel, the best thing to do, I think, is to learn it the same way that I learned how to work on cars. Find a good mentor, start doing some internships if you can, get your foot in the door, try to suck up as much as you can from people that are good at what they do, and then from there just let those doors open. And in this particular part of the world, especially here in the Denver market, do we need more good, solid hosts? We absolutely do. So it's not that there's not a need and an opening, Rachel. You just have to find the right people that are good at it and have learned how to do it.
Right. And you mentioned you are a business coach, mentor. There's some things that you see businesses doing that is not working for them.
The biggest things I think people, when I start coaching a business, typically there's about 3 things they're really struggling with. One can be financial. There's not enough cash flow, not enough money to keep things rolling along like they need to. They can't expand and do the things that they need because there's just not enough finances. That can also come from the fact that maybe they're not running things correctly. They don't have the right kind of payroll, or they've got too much payroll, or in some cases not enough payroll. HR becomes a big issue along those lines. And then last but not least, the marketing advertising piece of it is usually big. Most struggle in that area, and if they have anybody helping, typically they're third-party providers that are frankly probably charging far more than they should and not delivering what they need to be getting out of it. And so I think those three things initially for most of my clients is what they all seem to struggle with. And then, of course, from there, it's a lot of cases, it's even just the positivity. We kind of started this conversation along those lines. They need somebody to come alongside and just say, you know what, Rachel, you can do this. You can handle this. You can make it through this next challenge. I'm there to help you, and together we'll get through this.
Yeah. Everybody needs that right-hand person.
Correct.
And somebody positive in their life, and someone who can see the bigger picture too, because when we do...
And be honest with them.
And be honest. That's true. Yeah. Well, John, thank you for coming on Corner Cafe. First, how can our listeners, if they have a business and they want to be coached by you, how does that begin?
Either go to rushtoreason.com. That's one of the websites, of course, we have that has the program on it. Also have John Rush Coaching. You can go there as well. But best thing to do is just go to rushtoreason.com. That's the easiest one to remember. And if you forget any of that, Crawford Broadcasting has me listed all over their websites. You can find us there, klzradio.com as well. Rachel, for me, you can even just Google John Rush Denver, and you'll find me one way or the other. So those of you listening, if there's anything you need, by all means, reach out.
Yes. And suggesting any guests, do you have people suggest guests, or how does the guests for your show
You know what?
work?
That's a great question. And I get requests, and this is, again, I'm not trying to boast, but we've become, I think, a good enough program in the Denver market where I will get about 25 to 30 inquiries a day of guests and topics and people that want to come on air, and I filter through those according to the things we mentioned a little bit ago, trying to figure out what works best for that particular day, week, time of the month even, that sort of thing. And I kind of rifle through those and figure out who fits in and who doesn't. But yeah, I get anywhere from 25 to 30 of those requests daily, even on the weekends.
Yeah. Well, John, it's a pleasure having you on Corner Cafe. I'm going to have you back. We'll talk health next time.
Okay. Rachel, thank you very much, by the way.
Thank you. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Corner Cafe. Just want to remind you, if you'd like to check out our videos, just go to cornercaferadio.com, and I'm going to see you at the cafe next week.